Have you ever sat in your perfect house in silence, feeling like something is missing, like love packed its bags and left? If home without love is just walls, how do we bring warmth back to life and language? Picture this. You step into a spotless Danish home, wide windows opening to a quiet Copenhagen street. Everything looks perfect, tidy, filled with every convenience so you lack nothing. Yet, when you sit on the sofa, silence weighs heavily. The house feels more like a luxury hotel, except, no one is waiting at the dinner table, no laughter echoes from the kitchen, and your heart keeps whispering the same question: is this really a home, or just a house? Your brain plays a cruel little trick. It doesn't care much about white walls or double glass windows. What it craves is connection. Psychology studies in Denmark and across the world are clear. People cannot truly feel they belong to a place without the warmth of love or at least care. You could live in the most modern apartment, but if your emotions are empty, that house is nothing more than four walls with wide-fi.be honest. How many times have you quit practicing listening or speaking English, simply because it felt just as cold as a house without love? You sat in front of a screen, repeating lifeless vocabulary, yet felt no spark of connection. It's the same as living in a loveless house. The material is there, but the heart is missing, and here comes the big question: is a house without love still a home? This story will guide you through the journey of a young Dane living in that silence, until you see, just one small spark of connection can change everything. Basically, a house without love is like a giant matchbox, bright on the outside, but never truly warm. The empty house. Strange, isn't it, how a house can look perfect from the outside yet feel so hollow inside? Imagine walking into a Danish apartment in Aarhus. Polished wooden floors, white minimalist walls, and a kitchen with sleek steel counters. It's the kind of place you'd see in a magazine spread. But here's the catch. When no one says, "Welcome home," the silence becomes louder than any traffic outside. Your brain notices this instantly. Humans are wired to read social signals. In psychology, there's a term called ambient belonging. It's the invisible sense that a space is alive because people care for each other inside it. Without that, even the most beautiful Danish design feels more like an IKEA showroom than a home. You don't belong to the furniture. You belong to the love that flows through it. Think about how you practice English. You might have the best textbook, the perfect YouTube playlist, even a shiny notebook. But if there's no warmth, no laughter, no connection, it feels mechanical. Like repeating sentences to the walls. Just as an empty house is not a home, empty practice is not learning, and let's be honest, Denmark is famous for hygge, the cozy feeling of togetherness. Candles glowing, coffee steaming, friends chatting. But remove the love, and all you've got is wax melting for no reason. That's the cruel truth. Comfort without connection is just decoration. So, the empty house becomes a mirror. It reflects back not what you own, but what you lack. And in that silence, the question grows louder. Can a house without love ever feel like home? It's like living in a museum. You can admire the beauty, but you can't touch the warmth. The lonely character. Picture a young Dane named Emil. On paper, his life looks pretty solid. Steady job, a modern apartment near the canals, and even a bicycle with gears that never squeak. But when Emil closes the door behind him each evening, the silence doesn't greet him, it suffocates him. The fridge hums, the clock ticks, and every sound feels like a reminder. You're alone here. Loneliness isn't just a sad poem, it's biology. Studies show that prolonged loneliness triggers the same stress responses as physical pain. Your brain literally treats isolation as danger. Emil doesn't know the science, but he feels it. His chest grows heavy, his shoulders slump, and even the Danish summer light streaming through the window can't reach his mood. It's like the sun refuses to shine inside. Here's the twist. Emil tries to distract himself. He scrolls on his phone, binges English TV shows, even repeats sentences out loud to practice. But without interaction, it all feels hollow. Speaking to a screen isn't speaking with someone. It's just echoing into the void. Like cooking dinner for one, you go through the motions, but it never tastes the same. Have you felt that too? Sitting at your desk, repeating English phrases, and suddenly realizing your voice sounds thinner, weaker, because no one's listening? That's Emil's world, every night. A life that looks full on the outside but is eerily quiet within, and here's the punchline, he's not broken. He's human. Because even in the happiest country rankings, even in a cozy Danish apartment, the absence of love makes everything shrink. In short, Emil isn't really afraid of silence. He's afraid that the silence might never be broken. Mechanical routines. Emil's days roll on like clockwork. Wake up. Coffee. Bike to work. Sit in front of the computer for 8 hours. Bike home. Heat up frozen lasagna. Scroll through his phone until his eyes blur. Sleep. Repeat. If you looked at his schedule, you'd think he was efficient, almost robotic. But here's the thing, robots don't get lonely. Humans do. Your brain hates monotony. Neuroscientists call it hedonic adaptation, the ability to get used to anything, even comfort, until it feels empty. That's why Emil's stylish apartment and his stable job no longer thrill him. They've become background noise. Without connection, even his carefully arranged plants start to look like silent judges, whispering, "You're just existing, not living." Think about learning English. Maybe you repeat the same 10 phrases every day, hoping they'll stick. At first, it feels productive. But soon, your brain tunes out. Words lose meaning. You're not learning anymore, you're just pushing buttons. And like Emil heating his frozen meal, you're feeding yourself but not feeling nourished. There's a cruel irony here. Denmark is known for balance and well-being, yet Emil's routine is anything but nourishing. His life is technically full, job, apartment, bike, meals. But emotionally, it's on autopilot. And autopilot doesn't take you somewhere new. It just keeps you circling. Here's the punchline. Emil isn't living badly. He's just living flatly. The routine doesn't hurt, but it doesn't heal either. It's like chewing gum long after the flavor is gone. You're moving your jaw. But for what? and somewhere deep inside, Emil begins to wonder, is this all there is? Emotional crisis. One night, Emil comes home to his spotless apartment. He tosses his keys on the counter, heats up soup, and sits alone at the kitchen table. For a moment, he looks around, the neatly folded blanket, the glowing lamp, the spotless dishes. Everything screams perfect. And yet, it feels like sitting in a museum where touching isn't allowed. Beautiful, but untouchable. Here's the science behind that ache. Psychologists call it emotional deprivation. When your environment offers no affection, your brain goes into survival mode. Stress hormones rise, sleep quality drops, and even food tastes duller. Emil experiences this without naming it. His soup is warm, but it feels cold. His chair is soft, but it feels hard. Because without love, comfort becomes camouflage for emptiness, and this is where despair sneaks in. Emil realizes that his house gives him everything: shelter, light, warmth, but not the one thing he craves: presence. A laugh, a hug, a voice that says, "I'm glad you're here." Suddenly, the walls that once made him proud now feel like barriers. 4 walls. 4 reminders. 4 silent witnesses to his loneliness. This is the same feeling many learners face when practicing English in isolation. You have the apps, the books, the tools. But without real conversation, every word you say feels like throwing a paper plane into a void. It doesn't land anywhere. It doesn't return. And you begin to ask, am I really learning, or just filling the silence, the punchline? A house without love doesn't just feel empty. It makes you feel empty. And emptiness has a way of echoing louder than any sound. Emil is no longer just lonely. He's at the edge of questioning whether a life so quiet is even worth calling life. A small turning point. One gray Saturday, Emil decides to break his routine. Instead of staying in, he takes his bike into the heart of Copenhagen. The city is buzzing, street musicians strumming guitars, tourists snapping photos, children laughing as they chase pigeons near Nyhavn. Amid the noise, Emil feels strangely invisible, like a ghost moving through color. Then it happens. At a small cafe, as he fumbles with his order in English, "1 coffee, please," the barista smiles warmly and replies, "Your English is good. Where did you learn?" It's such a simple sentence, almost trivial. But for Emil, it's like someone opened a window in a stuffy room. He hasn't felt seen in weeks, maybe months. And all it took was a stranger's voice. Science has a word for this: social resonance. When someone acknowledges you, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Suddenly, coffee tastes richer, the cafe feels warmer, and even the rain tapping the window seems friendlier. For Emil, this tiny spark doesn't erase loneliness, but it cracks the shell. Think of your own English practice. You might spend weeks talking to apps or repeating words into the void. Then one day, a real person responds, even with something simple like, "Good job." And in that moment, all your practice suddenly matters. The words no longer float, they land for a meal. This cafe encounter is nothing dramatic. It's not a love story, not a miracle. It's just one human reaching another. Yet that's the irony. Sometimes the smallest gestures weigh the most, and here's the punchline. Warmth doesn't always arrive like a roaring fire. Sometimes, it starts with a single match. The power of love. Days after that cafe encounter, Emil starts to notice something odd. His apartment hasn't changed, same white walls, same tidy bookshelf. But suddenly, it doesn't feel quite so hostile. It's as if that single human interaction left a trace of warmth he accidentally carried home. The silence isn't gone, but it's softer. Less like a wait, more like a pause between notes, love, or even its smallest cousin, kindness, rewires the brain. Neuroscientists have shown that positive social contact lights up the same reward centers as food or music. That's why Emil, after hearing just one kind sentence, feels lighter when he waters his plants, more patient when cooking, and oddly motivated to practice his English with real intention. His apartment hasn't grown bigger, but his world inside it has. Here's the key. Connection transforms space. Without it, four walls are just bricks. With it, the same four walls become shelter, belonging, home. Emil starts inviting small moments of love into his life, smiling at neighbors, greeting colleagues instead of rushing past, even daring to chat with another learner online. Each time, the echoes of emptiness shrink. It's the same with English. Your vocabulary doesn't need to be huge. Your grammar doesn't have to be perfect. What makes your words alive is connection. When someone laughs at your joke, nods at your story, or simply listens. Suddenly, practicing isn't lonely repetition. It's building a bridge. The punchline? Emil's house didn't magically change. But with love sneaking in, it finally began to feel like home. And that's the secret. Walls don't make a home, hearts do. Closing message. So here's the truth Emil discovered, and maybe you felt it too. A house without love is just four walls and a roof. It can protect you from rain and snow, but it cannot protect you from emptiness. What transforms a house into a home is not the furniture, not the style, not even the location. It's the people, the laughter, the care, the warmth. This matters for you, too. Learning English isn't about stacking up words like bricks. It's about breathing life into them through connection. A conversation with a friend, a kind reply from a stranger, a shared laugh over a simple phrase. That's when the language becomes alive, when practice turns into belonging. Without love, words are just sounds. With love, they become bridges. Emil's story reminds us that you don't need grand gestures. Sometimes, one smile, one kind word, or one small act of courage is enough to turn silence into music. His apartment didn't change, but the presence of love made it glow from within. And that's what home is, not a place, but a feeling. So let me leave you with this. If your house feels cold, fill it with warmth. If your learning feels empty, share it with someone. Because in the end, it's not the walls or the words that matter, it's the love you put inside them. That's it for today. I'll make more videos like this in the future. Please subscribe to watch them.